Income versus wealth. Most people in their 20s optimize for the wrong thing. They chase income, the number on the pay slip, the salary bump, the freelance rate. And income matters, but income and wealth are not the same thing. And confusing the two is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make early in life. Income is a flow. It's what comes in. Wealth is what stays. Thomas Stanley spent decades studying millionaires in America. His research, published in The Millionaire Next Door, found that most high-income earners are not wealthy because they spend in proportion to what they earn. Meanwhile, the people who quietly built wealth were often earning average salaries, sometimes less. The difference was what they kept. There's a term for earning well but holding nothing, being all motor, no gas tank. The engine runs, but you're not going anywhere. In your 20s, income gives you the opportunity to build wealth. It is not wealth itself. The moment you internalize that distinction, you start making different decisions about spending, about lifestyle, about what you're actually optimizing for. The goal isn't to earn more, it's to keep more of what you earn and put it to work. Cash flow. Once you understand that wealth is what stays, the next question is, where does your money actually go? That's cash flow, and most people have no real answer. Cash flow is the movement of money in and out of your life. Income in, expenses out. What remains is your margin, and your margin is the only money that can ever become wealth. Robert Kiyosaki frames it simply in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The rich don't just earn more, they manage the gap between what comes in and what goes out. That gap, consistently maintained, is where financial progress lives. The problem is that cash flow is largely invisible without deliberate tracking. A 2019 study by Intuit found that 65% of Americans couldn't accurately estimate what they spent in the previous month. Not because they weren't earning, but because outflows happen quietly in small amounts across dozens of categories. You don't need a complicated budget. You need a clear picture. Know your income, know your fixed costs, know your variable spending. What's left is your margin. Protect it like it's the point, because it is. Negative cash flow at any income level means you are moving backwards. Positive cash flow means you have something to build with. It really is that binary. Assets versus liabilities. With margin established, the question becomes, what do you do with it? This is where assets and liabilities become essential to understand. Not as accounting terms, but as a framework for thinking about every financial decision you'll make. An asset puts money into your pocket over time. A liability takes money out. Kiyosaki's definition, again from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is blunt and useful. Most people spend their working lives buying liabilities they believe are assets. A car is a liability. It depreciates. It costs money to maintain. It produces nothing. A rental property is an asset. It generates income. A stock portfolio is an asset. A watch collection is a liability with good marketing. The trap in your 20s is that liabilities are sold to you as rewards. You worked hard, you deserve the upgrade. And maybe that's true. But if your money is flowing primarily into things that depreciate and cost money to hold, your net worth is moving in one direction. Every pound or dollar you own will either go towards something that builds your position or weakens it. There is no neutral spend at scale. Begin asking for every significant purchase, is this an asset or a liability? The answer won't always stop you from buying, but it will make you honest about the cost. Emergency fund. Before you invest a single dollar, you need a financial floor. An emergency fund is not a savings goal. It is a structural requirement. Without it, any unexpected expense, a medical bill, a job loss, a car breakdown, becomes a debt event. And debt events destroy financial progress. Fidelity Investments recommends 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses held in cash or a liquid account. Not invested, not locked away, available. The reason this matters so much in your 20s specifically, your income is less stable than it will ever be again. You may be early in your career, freelancing, building something. The variables are high. The floor needs to be solid. Think of an emergency fund as insurance you pay yourself. Its job is not to grow. Its job is to prevent you from being forced to make a bad financial decision at the worst possible time. which is exactly when emergencies happen. Build this before anything else. 3 months of expenses, then move. Debt. Not all debt is equal. Understanding the difference could be worth more than any investment strategy you learn. There are broadly 2 categories: productive debt, a mortgage on a property that generates rental income, a business loan with a clear return, a student loan that measurably increases earning power, and destructive debt, credit card balances, buy now, pay later schemes, consumer loans taken to fund lifestyle. The distinction is whether the debt is financing something that grows or something that disappears. What makes destructive debt dangerous isn't just the interest rate, though that matters. The average credit card in the US carries an interest rate above 20%. What makes it dangerous is that it compounds against you. Every month you carry a balance, you are paying to borrow money you already spent on something that no longer exists. Dave Ramsey's framework, which has reached millions, is straightforward. List every debt from smallest to largest, pay minimums on everything, attack the smallest with everything you have, then roll that payment onto the next. It's called the debt snowball. It works not because it's mathematically optimal, paying highest interest first is, but because it builds momentum. Either way, carrying high-interest consumer debt while trying to build wealth is like filling a bucket with a hole in it. Fix the hole first. Inflation. Here is the thing nobody tells you about saving money. Money sitting still is money moving backward. Inflation is the rate at which the purchasing power of currency declines over time. The U.S. Federal Reserve targets 2% annual inflation. That means $1 today buys roughly 2% less next year. Over a decade, that compounds. Over a working lifetime, it's significant. The implication is direct. Cash loses value by default. It doesn't feel like a loss because the number in your account stays the same, but what it can buy, housing, food, education, costs more every year. This is why parking all your money in a savings account is not a conservative strategy. It is a slow loss. The interest offered by most standard savings accounts does not keep pace with inflation. You are losing ground while feeling safe. Understanding inflation reframes the entire purpose of investing. You are not investing to get rich. You are investing first just to stay still, and then, if your returns exceed inflation, to actually grow. Compound interest. Albert Einstein reportedly called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. Whether he said it or not, the mathematics justify the reverence. Compound interest is interest earned on interest. You invest a principal, it earns a return, that return is added to the principal, and next period's return is calculated on the new, larger total. The growth is not linear. It accelerates. Here's what that means in practice. A 22-year-old who invests $200 a month and earns a 7% average annual return, roughly the historical average return of the S&P 500 after inflation, will have approximately $655,000 by age 65. A 32-year-old doing the exact same thing will have around $309,000. Same behavior, 10 years later, less than half the outcome. The variable that matters most in compounding is not the return rate. It is time, and time is the one thing you actually have in your 20s that you will never have more of again. This is not an argument to invest recklessly. It is an argument to start with whatever you can as soon as you can, because the mathematics reward early action more than any other single factor. Investing. Everything before this point has been preparation. This is where it compounds into something real. Investing is the act of allocating money into assets that are expected to generate a return over time. Stocks, index funds, real estate, bonds. The vehicle matters less than the habit and the timeline. John Bogle, founder of Vanguard and pioneer of the index fund, spent his career making a single argument: that most active investors underperform the market over time, and that a low-cost index fund, one that simply tracks the market, outperforms the majority of managed funds over a 20-year period. The data consistently supports him. For most people in their 20s, the practical starting point is an index fund tied to a broad market index. Low fees, diversified exposure, no stock picking required. But here's the reframe, and it's the one this entire video has been building toward. Investing is not a separate activity that wealthy people do. It is the natural endpoint of every decision covered in this video.